Super Rugby round 7 Saturday games are all done and dusted. 2 away wins and a home win, so a bit of a mixed bag of results. Yeah, I'll start with the Blues Sharks game. So the Sharks win that one 63 points to 40. Gonna try not to rant. I was at this game. Wasn't good if you're a Blues fan. 63 points is a lot to concede, especially at home. Anytime really, but 12 tries, 103 points, entertainment game. Defense coaches on either side are not going to be happy. But the Blues, yes, largely predicted to win this one, managed to buck the trend. The Sharks, a team which hadn't looked that good recently, managed to look rather good indeed. It's hard being a Blues fan because the other 4 teams in the conference are very good, and the Blues are not very good. It's like having 4 brothers who are all doctors and you couldn't even get out of high school. It's difficult. So yes, there was a pretty awful performance from the Blues, unless they were playing 14 men. When they were playing 14 men, when the Sharks had a yellow card, they actually looked pretty good. They managed to regain the lead. It was a big momentum shift, and the Blues looked like they were going to storm back into this game and look like the Sharks were going to fall to pieces. But no, Sharks came right back in, and it was the Blues who kind of went to custard. They gave away too many penalties, lots of offsides and high tackles and things like that. Mind you, my seat for this game wasn't that good. I was kind of on the 5-meter line where the Sharks were attacking in the first half. So a lot of the action was down the other end. So yeah, I probably didn't get as good a feel for this game as if I'd actually watched it on telly. And the atmosphere wasn't that great, given that the Blues were losing for much of the game. But still, I digress. The Blues had a bit of aimless kicking. And yes, the Sharks have a very good kicker in Robert Dupria, the son of the coach. The chaps in front of me kept calling him Lambie. If you don't know that Patrick Lambie actually left Super Rugby at the end of last season. But yes, they kept saying, stop kicking it to Lambie, and I agreed with them, apart from the Lambie bit. So, stop kicking it to him. Wasn't going well. Yeah, the Sharks' kicking was pretty good. He's got a good boot. From hand and from the tee. He kicked 7 out of 7 penalties, 6 out of 6 conversions, finished with 38 points. He also got a try. So yeah, pretty star performance from him. Had a good game. There's always been that debate in my mind as whether Bosch or Robert Dupria should be at 10. Or well, if he keeps playing like that, then he should be playing at 10. Yeah, man, the Sharks took their chances really well, and both from the boot and with the ball. Tackling from both teams probably left a bit to be desired. I mean, you don't concede 6 tries unless things aren't quite going as they perhaps should. The crowd was average. It wasn't a huge crowd. Even though it was kind of if you take a kid with you, the kid gets in free. I think that kind of marketing works better if it's an afternoon game instead of a game which starts at 7:35. A lot of kids' bedtime is not that long after that. I certainly wouldn't be taking my young son to a game at that time because he would be rather difficult to manage. Yes, if you looked at Tana after this game, he looked a pretty dejected figure in the coach's box, and I feel like that's going to be talked about. Like, you can't... I don't know if he was deliberately trying to show that he was frustrated or if he was just legitimately like, I don't know what to do. But he looked like he'd had enough, as someone pointed out in the comments. And once people think you look like you've had enough, it's not that long before people start to assume you've had enough, and then they start to look for somebody else. So we will see. I didn't see any press conference from him afterwards, so I'm not sure if he was able to... I did read that he said they were embarrassed, so yeah, fair enough. Robert Dupria Sr., I only saw him before the game because I was down the end of the field where the Sharks were warming up. He looked very serious, as he always does. Although Q and Bosch and the Beast looked very chummy and very happy. So maybe they knew what was coming. Either way, I was thinking at the time, what are you guys going to be happy about? But apparently, lots. So yeah, it's a bit of a problem for the Blues. I mean, especially because Here in Auckland, there's multiple sports teams that play. The main two are the Blues and the Warriors. The Warriors are a league team who play in the Australian NRL. And they're both on a kind of similar storyline most years in that they're both not very good. They've both not made the playoffs in a long time. Not been good for a long time. But this season, the Blues are having only picked up a win out of, what is it now, 5 games? The league team is 4 wins on the trot and no losses. So I only mention that because the crowd wasn't that good there last night. And I know they get more for the derby games, of course, because people travel and a lot of non-Aucklanders live in Auckland. But yeah, a lot of fans at the ground were talking because the league game was on at the same time. They were saying at least the Warriors are winning and the next week we'll go to the Warriors, that kind of thing. So, and on the Facebook page as well, the Blues Facebook page was all about the Warriors. So I feel like that casual fan who doesn't really care what game they go to, they just want to go out with their mates and watch a game and have a beer. Or those families who just want to take the kids to watch some sport to get them out of the house for a while. I mean, if you're going to choose a team, you're going to choose the one that's winning. So that may affect Blues attendances going forward. I just mentioned that because, yeah, like in the other 2 games, the Brumbies and the Bulls game, I thought the crowds looked pretty good. I was pretty impressed with how many people got out. So, yeah, that could be a problem for the Blues going forward. Going forward, the Blues have got the Chiefs away. And that looks like a heck of a job, given that the Highlanders couldn't even beat the Chiefs down there. They came close. But the Blues in current form look like they may again struggle with the Sunwolves. So, yeah. But, I mean, you never know. The Blues are a up and down team. So it would be like them in a match where they are predicted to get smashed, actually do decent. I'm not saying they'll win. I doubt it. But in a game where they were predicted to do well, they did rather poorly. For the Sharks, I mean, kudos to those guys. After having a pretty poor start to the season, they actually stepped things up. Things started to click. I mean, it always helps when the other team's not doing that well, but that's not to say the Sharks didn't do well. I'm not taking anything away from the Sharks. I thought they did. They played smart and they played clinical. And, I mean, apart from letting in 40 points, they did pretty well. And away win against the New Zealand team is always good. I know the Blues are probably the easiest of the lot, but it's more than what the Stormers and the Bulls got on their tours, so definitely take those points in the bank back to South Africa. After going to play the Hurricanes next week in Napier. So it's not a traditional home game for the Hurricanes, and that they're not going to be playing in Wellington, so they'll be playing in Napier, but yeah, I don't know how much less difficult it becomes just because they're playing in Napier. I think the Hurricanes, after seeing what they did to the Rebels, will still be pretty strong. But I mean, if there's any time to go and play them, it's after coming across a nice win like that. The only thing is, if you let 40 points into the Blues, imagine how many the Hurricanes are going to score. We will see. If they can shore up that defence a bit, you never know. Sharks this might be the kickstart they need to get their season going. Right, moving along, because I don't want to think about that game at all, is the Brumbies and the Tars. I missed the start of this game because I was driving back for the Blues game. I should mention, I don't know, I was going to get on for it. There was a lady, like 10 minutes from time, or 5 minutes, trying to, like, over the speakers, trying to rock the crowd up and say, come on, guys, support your team. It was like, I think the game's gone. You can probably take off 5 minutes early. Anyway, Brumbies, Waratahs. Missed the first start of the game because I was driving. Apparently, Falau went off early. That's not good if you're a Waratahs supporter. You felt like he was going to be a large part of their attack plan, but they still managed to get a result without him. So 24-17, away win over the Brumbies. I saw in the press conference afterwards that they think it's his hamstring in probably 3 to 4 weeks, so it could be a lot worse, but yeah, definitely not ideal. And as I said, it looked like a pretty good crowd. So a derby match on a holiday weekend. You thought a lot of people might be out of town, but enough showed up to the game. Welcome David Pocock back to the side, so that's pretty cool. Good on you guys in Canberra. It was tight when I arrived and started watching the game after about 20 minutes, and it stayed pretty much tight for the whole game. No one was really able to get dominance, and no one was able to run away from it. Although, from what I saw, the Tars did have a lot more possession, but the Brumbies were getting a lot of turnovers, and part of that's due to having David Pocock on the field. He's just a turnover machine, and that hasn't changed in his time away, because it's been a long time since we've seen him in Super Rugby. So, Yeah, it was kind of a back and forward battle. Right before the end of the first half, Nairavoro got the first of his 2 tries, and he made Henry Spate look pretty silly. Just bumped him right off. I don't know. Spate's technique on that one was really poor. So yeah, that gave the Tars a bit of a boost going into the second half, and then they scored early on the second half as well. So the Brumbies had to play catch up, and they're not a team who scores a lot of points, so can't really afford to go behind. They needed to take their chances, and they were doing it with Howard as boot. He got 4 penalties, so he was definitely keeping them in touch. But and Foley wasn't having the best night with the boot, but he was doing enough just to keep the Waratahs out in front. Yeah, the Brumbies were managing their game well, but they just didn't have enough ball. So I mean, like, they're kind of in the same vein as the Highlanders. They're not a team that goes out and dominates with the ball. They play more territory, but I still feel like they needed more ball than they got in this game against the Tars. Yeah, the Brumbies had a few key moments kind of go against them. They had a scrum penalised. They lost a line out and had a maul collapse, all at pretty kind of costly times when they just needed to get some points. They were only 7 behind, so key times they just couldn't capitalise. So for the Tars, apparently they've never scored more than 2 tries against the Brumbies in Canberra, so that continues, but it's a good win. It's an away win against the Brumbies, who don't concede a lot of points at home. This is going to put pressure on the Rebels, because the Rebels got thumped, and now the Waratahs have got to win, so it just puts them that step closer that the Rebels will feel the Waratahs breathing down their neck, so that's definitely going to put some pressure on, and especially good because they got the win without Folau. If he only played 4 minutes, you might as well count him as not even having played. So yeah, he's such a good player that you kind of wonder how would they play without him. Apparently good enough to get a win, so that's good for them. For the Brumbies, it's pretty disappointing. Yeah, it's a home loss. And their coach talked a few weeks ago about the importance of winning at home. Talking about this one thing, doing it's another. And yeah, I mean, his players didn't do him a lot of favours. Like I talked about Spate not tackling Nairavoro. He had one brain explosion where he tackled Beale really late, and it gave away like so much territory because he was penalised, and it went to where the ball landed from where Beale kicked it, and it was just like, man, what are you doing? So yeah, back to the training ground for those guys. Stick to the game plan, I think, will be the message. No more silly penalties, that kind of thing. The Brumbies play such a tight game, they can't afford to be doing that kind of silly stuff. The Waratahs travel away to the Sunwolves, so I guess if you're going to have a game without Folau, that's probably a good one. Maybe leave him in Australia to recover, and yes, rotate your squad, get a few guys in to get a good away win. They definitely need to win. And for the Brumbies, they've got the Reds at home. Now, their scrum was under a bit of pressure against the Waratahs, so we'll see how they go against the Reds, because the Reds scrum has looked pretty deadly so far this season. So yeah, that becomes a much more important game for them. At least they got the bonus point. That's all I'll say. It's more than what the Blues did in their home game. That is for certain. In the last game, which was on at 3:15 here in New Zealand in the morning, I managed to drag myself out of bed to watch this one. Perhaps trying to erase the memories of recent rugby. I'm not going to go on about it. So the Bulls got a home win. They broke their losing streak to get a win, 33-23 over the Stormers. I'd been having a chat with a Bulls fan in the comments about whose team was worse. I think I'm the winner this week, sir. So yes, it's another good crowd. The crowd at Loftus seemed to be really good. I'm really impressed. There's been issues with the crowd not showing up at Loftus for the last kind of couple of seasons. I mean, results kind of dictate how much engagement you get from the fans, but the results have not been there, but the fans still bought in, so very cool to see that. It's good to see. It's just easier on the eye when you're watching at home and you see lots of people in the crowd. It just seems to make it look a lot nicer. The Bulls seemed pretty dominant in the first half, and they got a lot of pressure put on the Stormers, and that got rewarded with a yellow card to Dale Indy pretty early on. But the Bulls didn't capitalise that much on that yellow card. They did score a try, which was unconverted, and then later on the Stormers went and got a penalty. So that score during the yellow card was only 5 points to 3 to the Bulls, which is, when you've got the man advantage, you want to do what the Blues did, which is score 3 tries on the trot, not let them kind of get a penalty and limit to you just a 2-point gain. So they were putting on a lot of pressure, but not really able to punish the Stormers. The Stormers were hanging on, and towards the end of the first half, the Stormers got a few quick points. Like Dale Indy scored a pretty magic try, and to kind of make up for his yellow card. And it was only 1 point at the break, and you felt like, man, the Bulls were kind of doing what the Stormers did last week with the Reds. They had like all this opportunity to put on a big lead and just weren't able to do it. I mean, credit to the way the Stormers were playing though, because they were hanging on. The Bulls looked really high energy despite the fact they were coming back from New Zealand. Like I'm gonna have to look at the stats, because I keep thinking these teams who are traveling are gonna be poor. But I mean, I need to look at the numbers, but it seems like a lot of teams traveling are winning. So it kind of bucks the trend. Like the Chiefs did it back from Japan. The Rebels did it when they came back from Japan. The Stormers did it when they went back from New Zealand to play the Blues in South Africa. And now the Bulls have done it to the Stormers. So it seems like the traveling teams are doing pretty well. They didn't look tired at all. They looked really fired up. The Stormers, on the other hand, couldn't really get things going. They looked a bit disjointed, but I mean, that might have been just the way the game was being reffed. Like, there were a lot of penalties in this game. I think this game had 16, this one had 20. This one ended up with 24 penalties and 3 yellow cards, which is a lot of officiating kind of getting in the way of some rugby. But I mean, I guess if the players are playing that way, then there's not the... I mean, the refs can manage it, but only to a degree. Both Pollard and Willemse look pretty good in these games. Willemse continues to impress. His kicking was not kind of up to its usual standard, both from hand and from the tee. He missed a few points which could have got the score a bit closer. Also, I should have mentioned in this game that if Foley had kicked his points, the Brumbies wouldn't have got a bonus point. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, a lot of penalties. Interesting difference in mindset though, that when the Bulls got a penalty, for the most part they were like, we're going for touch and we're going to try and score a try. And like Adrian Strauss got 3 tries, 2 of them from mauls. So yeah, that was working for them, and that was just a different mindset. Whereas the Stormers were like, no, we'll take the 3, we'll take the 3, we'll take the 3. And for the majority of this game, the Bulls would pull ahead and the Stormers would just keep catching them up, pull ahead, catch them up. They never got really comfortably ahead right until the end. You feel like if the game would keep going, the Stormers probably would have caught up again, just as the game kind of ebbed and flowed. Stormers line-out kind of gifted the Bulls a pretty bad... Well, it was Strauss's 3rd try. Yeah, the Stormers had done really well to hold the Bulls out, and then when they had a defensive line-out 5 metres out, well, they had the ball. They threw it in and missed straight to Strauss, who gobbled it up. Got a 3rd try. The Bulls showed some skills. Definitely a team on the improve with skills. The way Smith kind of offloaded to Creel was impressive. And like I said about Dale Indy, man, his try was just pure class. So both sides are teams, like the Stormers especially in the last few years, have really improved their handling and their just general skills. And the Bulls are starting to do that as well. So if you're a South African fan, you've got to look forward to what these guys are going to be doing kind of in the near future, because I think they're not that far away. Like I said, 3 yellow cards, 24 penalties, so a lot of officiating, but still some good rugby. Big result for the Bulls to break that losing streak. It was 4 on the trot, so back to winning ways for them, which is good. The Stormers missed that chance to really keep pushing ahead, so the Waratahs took theirs in terms of putting pressure on the team ahead of them. Stormers not able to capitalise after having a good kind of recovery from their tour. Still no away wins for the Stormers, so disappointing. No bonus point on the road either. The Bulls go into the bye, so they've earned a rest, and the Stormers go away to the Lions, so still no away wins, and now you have to go to the Lions. It doesn't get any easier, but the Lions have the Crusaders coming up in the Sunday fixture, so we'll see how they go. If they end up getting mauled by the Crusaders, it might be a good chance to take them on next week after having a day's extra rest, having played on the Saturday. We will see. What did you guys think of the results? How about them Blues, huh? Yep, glad I spent $40 on a ticket for that. Cool, and bought my dad's ticket as well. Another $40. $13 for a couple of drinks. Yes. Anyway, I'm going to go out and do non-rugby things for a while. See you guys later.